Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. We are here live from the Learn Teams Conference happening all this week using the hashtag LTC18. This week, we're going to be learning all about Microsoft Teams and how amazing it can be for you and your students. Of course, if you want to check out all the great stuff, we are here live tonight over on TeacherCast.tv with a heavy dose of professional development. Of course, you can find us over on TeacherCast.net each and every single day. We have three great guests, but before we get to those guests, I want to bring on the founder and creator of the Learn Teams Conference. I want to bring on Mr. Jared DeCamp. Jared, how are you today? What do you think about this conference?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thank you. Having a lot of fun, getting a little bit of participation and lots of questions coming in. So excited to get into it.
This is such a great conference that we're seeing here. Tell us a little bit about the Learn Teams Conference. How did it start, and why are we learning about Microsoft Teams today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the concept kind of started with OneNote. I know a lot of educators are fans of OneNote. And in 2016, 2017, we did the Learn OneNote conference and had a couple thousand people involved and had a lot of fun with that. And so now, as Teams is a year old, we kind of brought it over to this topic, and it's just a good chance to learn about Teams and really get an opportunity to hear what other educators are actually doing with Teams.
And for those of us out there who have not played with Teams yet, what is Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, Microsoft Teams is a collaboration tool. Some people will call it like a central hub. It kind of brings all your technology tools together and allows you to have a conversation and interact in one spot.
Now, we have two great panelists tonight. Why don't you introduce our guests?
Yeah, we got Tom Grissom. He's a PhD. He's one of the speakers at the Learn Teams conference. Let's see. He's the director of Instructional Technology Center in the College of Education. He and I did a session together for the Learn Teams conference that aired today, and we just had a quick back and forth conversation about why you should be using Teams. And then we have Kurt Sozer, who is a repeat speaker as well. He did the Learn OneNote conference a couple times, and he's been really supportive on Twitter. And he, let's see, if you follow him at Kurt Sozer, and I'm looking for, he's a MIE fellow. I follow him. So when I'm looking on Twitter and seeing what's going on in the Microsoft community, I basically see him traveling all over Europe, giving presentations and talks to all kinds of educators on Teams, OneNote, and a bunch of other tools. So he's a rock star.
Well, thank you guys for being here, and I think we should say a special thank you to Kurt, who right now, as we're recording this, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So what an MIE, what a rock star, great stuff here. Jared, let's talk a little bit about the history of this conference. This isn't the first time that we have come together as an educational community to learn in an online fashion. We've done a few of these before, haven't we?
Right, yeah. So it started with OneNote. So my background is not in the education space. I was a commercial real estate appraiser, and I kind of fell in love, if you can say that, about a piece of technology with Microsoft OneNote, and kind of went down this journey, and I discovered this robust community of educators that are using OneNote. And so it just kind of has evolved from there. You know, as we'll get into tonight, Teams and OneNote really interact in a lot of different ways. And so it was a natural next step for us with this online platform, trying to get people from all over the world together. We're just taking it to Teams and continuing the conversation.
Now, of course, we all love OneNote, and I'm sure everybody out there is following OneNote on Twitter at OneNoteEDU, and we know of its wonderful capabilities. We're going to be getting into a lot of OneNote later on in the show today, but I want to start to talk about Teams. This is a relatively new app for Microsoft, and they've been pushing it really hard this year, and I've seen a lot of amazing things happening with it. Why would a school district want to adopt Teams for their students and teachers?
I'll go ahead and jump in on that one. Microsoft Teams complements, I think all of us are avid OneNote users out there, and it complements OneNote very, very well. It's kind of been the missing piece for OneNote. It provides a synchronous and asynchronous type chat conversation area, and that was one thing that was kind of missing from OneNote, because OneNote syncs in the background, and Teams kind of provides that live, interactive interface along with a host of other features.
And where can people, let's just start with there. How do we find Teams online?
Our university is an Office 365 university, and it's part of our subscription basis. And one of the great things about it is it's ready out of the gate. Once it's turned on for your Office 365, every single person in the organization can go on and participate out there. And it's very, very easy to use and set up, and it's very focused, very practical. So we're finding great success with that.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in real quickly. So one of the things, like when you're looking at OneNote, looking at Teams, like with Teams, there's a lot of freedom and flexibility with the way you can set it up. Like if you're thinking about a classroom, you can set it up by subject or by topic. Like there's a lot of different things. So what we're finding is that teachers are kind of coming together and having some discussion around that to see what works, what doesn't, and kind of trying to improve. I mean, it's only a year old, and so there's a lot of exploration and experimentation going on with it right now.
One of the questions that pops up an awful lot is why live in this kind of an environment? So let's take a moment here. Let's compare Teams to, say, other LMSs out there. What advantages do teachers have by using Microsoft Teams? And let's even dive deeper and say, what advantages do school districts have by adopting Teams versus maybe some of the feature sets in other LMSs, other applications such as this, which have been around for much, much, much longer?
I can jump in there. I mean, one thing that I keep hearing time and time again is the security aspect of it. I mean, security is critical. We just heard with a giant tech company that had a little bit of a data leak recently. Security is important with our student data. So that's one very high reason to use Teams maybe over something else. I can keep going. I mean, another top thing that I keep hearing over and over is just the integration with Office 365 tools. I mean, not only do you have OneNote, but you also have Microsoft Forms. What else is there? Stream works well with it. So there's a lot of integration with the tools that you already use. So it's really like, it's going back to what we started with, is really that hub, and it integrates with what you're already using.
So
I think,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's one of the main reasons that my colleagues are starting to use Microsoft Teams, because it's all kind of apps they're using right now. It's integrated, and it's, as I call it, the one-stop shop. Just switch open Teams.microsoft.com, and then you get everything there. And it's pretty straightforward. You don't have to read manuals or get some workshops or something like this. You can just start within 5 minutes. And that's what I really love about the environment.
Well, let's take a look at some of the things that we can do as teachers, right? It's one thing to say Teams is wonderful, but really let's deep dive into some of the things that we can do. What are some of the options available for teachers? Is this a place where we can give assignments? Is this a place where we can build our lesson plans in? What can a teacher expect when they're using Microsoft Teams?
So all kind of things you just mentioned. I think for me, the four most important things you can make use of are communication, as Tom already mentioned, real-time communication, and you can distribute content there. So that's one of the main reasons my colleagues are using it, because we have finally a space where everybody comes together. It's not cluttered on email or some other cloud storage. So everything is stored there, and the students can access it right from there, from the OneDrive, the SharePoint thing. Everything comes together. And of course, the biggest thing, and for me and probably for everybody, is that you also get OneNote class notebook, where you can store other contents, not only file-based content, but all other digital kind of stuff. And one of the main reasons I'm using it is I can get a quick overview about my assignments I do with my students. So that was mainly the biggest reason I jumped into Teams this school year, to get an overview, to not only for me, but also for the students of all assignments we're doing in the term. And so, it's the kind of the one-stop shop that I really love about.
Well, would you say that you work in Teams? Would you say that you live in Teams, or do you say that you visit Teams every now and then?
I think it's more as I come strongly from the OneNote, have a strong OneNote background. I visit Teams regularly, just for communication with my students, but also for assignments. Every week they get assignments, and so I have to check is everything handed in, and I can assign points. And it's good to stay in contact with my students. Because I only see them once a week, and therefore it's a good platform to communicate and keep the thing going outside the classroom.
Yeah, I'm curious, Kurt, do you do any video interaction like within Teams when you have the conversation going on? Do you ever hop on a phone call or a video call with any students?
We have done this once or twice right now, just before some big tests or exams. So the students they get into this a bit more right now, and they can reach out to me outside the classrooms. But it's always the teacher-student relationship. But it's evolving, I might say, and we do that on a regularly basis, but it keeps going. Yeah,
I think that's a really good point. That so for the conference, we pre-recorded some of the sessions, and I did the recordings over the last 2 weeks or so. And at least one of the videos, the speaker approached me and was like, "Hey, there's just been a major update to Teams. Can we do a little bit of changing to the session?" So, like the Microsoft Teams product development group is constantly iterating. And I know one thing that keeps coming up with people who have joined is the ability to add existing OneNote notebooks into Teams. So I am on the business client, and I am able to add a pre-existing OneNote notebook. What has been your experience, Kurt and Tom?
So Tom.
I do that with the existing notebooks because we have, obviously a lot of history and things out there. Very easy to do. You just do it as a tab at the top, and it's there and ready to access. And I kind of think of the OneNote as a little bit more of the archival storage and things. And the other thing, Jeff, you ask about, do you find yourself living in Teams or just kind of occasionally viewing? I think it's going to differ amongst individuals. And as Jared says, they're iterating very, very quickly. But I'm finding myself living more and more in Teams because what's kind of sold me on it is it's this digital hub or wrapper. So all of these other services, Word, Excel, Sway, OneNote, all of those are within Teams. You have your own files area, a SharePoint service available out there, and also Microsoft Stream. You can have essentially your own private TV channel within your Teams, and that's something very exciting for us for online distance education. So you just set that up once, and then as you provide content, the workflow is very easy, once it's set up.
Yeah, so I think that just like thinking about what's great about Teams and trying to use it. So like when you're thinking about a school that is considering adopting Teams, like how, I'm curious, like what you think, if you have any experience with trying to talk to other teachers or maybe the administration staff, and if you have any thoughts on maybe how to approach that conversation if you're thinking about using Teams in your school. Kurt, are you there?
Yeah. Okay. So in my case, we just switched from another LMS, and it was not continued the LMS that we were using, and we needed a place where we can store things, and that was kind of the first thing that my colleagues jumped into, to store their files and share it with the students. And afterwards, they saw, okay, that you can make use of the conversation pane or the OneNote class notebooks. There are, I think, about 25 to 30 educators now using the OneNote class notebooks in my school. And that's also a point where I can get them onto Teams because they are already familiar with it. And when I look at the bigger screen, when I do a lot of workshops, they always tell me it's far more easier than any other LMS they know, because you can really set up in your own style. You're not limited to some kind of organizational things. You can use the different channels to make a really how to call it, small iterations or small topics, or you can see it as a whole thing where every conversation goes into the same channel. So it's really adaptable for your needs. That's what I really like about Teams too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a collaboration tool. So I almost feel like on some levels it has to like hit this critical mass when you're trying to adopt it in a school. Like I know you were starting out with some of your teachers and kind of going down that journey right now, Kurt. And it's like at some point you almost have to get that buy-in from people, because otherwise you got email and you got Teams and you have like this just organization, and it almost works against you. So just a couple quick, go ahead, Tom.
Well, we're starting to use it for some of our committee work, and one of the challenges there is you'll send out an email blast, to 20 members on a committee, and everything's point to point. Teams offers that advantage on that collaboration front, that everybody can see that conversation, and we kind of treat it a little more informally. It's got some fun things out there, with animated GIFs and things like that as well, emojis, and it's a little bit more of a modern chat, but it provides that buy-in. You can communicate with the team out there. So, and if you're working on collaborative files, you've got the files area. So you're working on one copy and not 20 copies as attachments in somebody's email box and wondering which one's the most recent. So it's got a lot of strengths on that. That's what it was designed for.
So we have a live audience here that I want to acknowledge. Of course, we're using the hashtag on Twitter tonight of hashtag LTC18. And we've got some people here on the chat that are actually asking us some questions here. One of our users is actually mentioning the fact of how easy it is for students to use their smartphone and Teams. Have anybody here had an opportunity to really explore the use of mobile learning and Microsoft Teams?
I have. I use an Android phone, and the client is very robust. Like I said, used to kind of live in email, and now then I kind of find myself gravitating toward Teams, because it's that collection hub that you can go out there at night, without getting into the nitty gritty of everything. You can go out and mention people. So that kind of, like on Twitter, it just focuses that person's attention. But again, everybody can kind of see those conversations happening in the side channels out there. But the smartphone, just that ease of access, the mobility, and again, you can embed YouTube videos within a conversation thread. So it is really robust on a mobile platform as well.
It's same here with me. I teach adults in the evening school, and they often do not have access to laptops or computers. So they mainly use the mobile phone, and Teams is our environment where I put in all the assignments, all the content. They just open it on their smartphone, and then that's pretty powerful for me, as we have a 50% not in-face teaching. So everything comes together, and for me, I really depend on using it on the mobile phone. Therefore, it's great that it's open to every platform, and you can use it in every platform. So that's really good.
And do you find that it's a almost seamless transfer between mobile and desktop apps, or are there features of Teams that you're not able to use because it's on a mobile device versus on a full desktop?
There were some missing things with the assignments, but right now it's getting better and better, and it's pretty stable as I.
It's mainly the form factor for me. A smartphone's a little bit small. Whenever you're doing a large amount of concentrated work, I much prefer my Surface. But it is pretty well full featured, as Kurt says. I do the same with OneNote. There's a lot of things that you can do with mobile on OneNote, but for the full experience, I prefer the desktop version.
Now, people might be looking at Teams and saying, should I get involved with this? I already use OneNote. We have the same thing on other platforms. I've already been invested into this particular application. Now this new thing comes along. Talk to us a little bit about the transition here. Is this something that we can pick up easily? Is this something that it's a no-brainer? Hey, let's just start using Teams. What's your experience has been bringing in other people into the environment?
I'll comment first. I'm back. Can you guys hear me again?
The audio's a little bit bad. Jared, why don't you drop off and come back on again for a second? Tom, what do you think? As far as getting people to really join into the Teams philosophy, what have you seen with your colleagues?
The learning curve's really not bad at all. Like anything else, I mean, just by the name of team, a group of people working on a common cause, it really helps to focus on what the tool, was meant for collaboration and things. So come out with a mission in mind to accomplish some actual work. I think that's a good selling point. But as far as ease of use, it's a very modern interface. The chat looks a lot like Facebook or Twitter. So it's a modern chat, and the interactivity that you can accomplish with it, like I said, embedding YouTube or Microsoft Stream videos, that's all self-contained, and it really keeps your focus out there on the task at hand. But I do think you kind of need to have, that manager or leader out there kind of driving a little bit of that to accomplish whatever goal it is you set before yourself.
With all go ahead.
Can I jump in? Can you hear me? All right.
You're good.
Perfect. So a couple of things when you're thinking about like starting with Teams, one of the sessions we have is like how to be a good team owner. And there's like Tom was kind of discussing, like there's settings that you need to think about and approach as to like who you're going to let share, what the file situation is going to be. And so like we got to get into that over a 30-minute time in that session because there are things to think about. And the way I like to think about, like when I'm putting this conference on, right, like my motivation is to help people learn Teams. But like the truth of the matter is I think that it's kind of this like combination where it's easy to like get started and start using and clicking around, but it's really difficult. It's like kind of a lifetime of master because like going back to what I said earlier, there's a lot of freedom with how you set it up. And so I think like what we're doing right now with Teams in 2-3 years or maybe 2-3 months is just going to be iterated and improved on. Yeah. So that's like kind of the fun journey that we're all on together.
Yeah. It's exactly what I'm experiencing. I just started a month ago the new term, and I set it up a bit better, as I call it, with a finer granulation and more channels, and with the combination of the OneNote class notebook, I found out where to store things. It's better to switch to the collaboration space some points so they show up in the Teams tabs too. It's iterating and it's evolving, and I think that's the most important thing, that our students see this too as a ongoing progress of getting better, of getting the communication stronger, and yeah. For me, I don't think that I've finished and I have my best setup right now. So I hope I will come up with new ideas.
Yeah, and as you're going through that process as an instructor and an educator, like Brett Byfield discussed with me, he's writing a research paper on like Teams in the education space, and he wrote one on OneNote in the education space. Like as you transition as an educator to push yourself and put yourself in like that learning situation and you're the student, it allows you to have empathy for your students and allows that process to be collaborative in nature rather than just one direction.
Yeah, and Teams just celebrated its 1-year anniversary just last week. So this is all new. Really for schools, that's like 3 semesters worth of, trying to get started. And don't. I guess my recommendation would be don't wait, to get everything perfect, because it's never going to be perfect, and say, okay, I'm going to start a new semester, have everything lined up. I really recommend starting with a small project and just kind of going out there and kicking the tires, getting familiar. And I mentioned to Jared in our session today, I always create a topic called Sandbox, which is just like a playground area for people to go out there. They don't have to worry about messing anybody else's, topics or anything up. And it's just kind of an area out there for people to play.
That is certainly,
yeah, that's a good point.
Everything.
That's a good point, Tom. Thanks for bringing that up. One other thing I wanted to mention is just like as you're thinking about using Teams or considering it, I was talking to Anthony and Darren in their session that will be released later this week, and they have buy-in from their entire school. They actually have, I think, all of their instructors are MIEs. So that's like incredible effort on their part. And as I'm doing some of these interviews and things, I'm careful. I'm trying not to ask questions that put people on the spot, but I did. I asked them, like, how do you do that? And they gave a ton of wisdom. So please, I won't try to repeat everything that they said. Hear directly from them. But one of the things that they said is that they don't try to force it on people. They really try to like join together with their teachers. So I thought that was really interesting that they're not forcing things on. Obviously, we're here because we like Teams, but it's about the students,
We're here talking about the Learn Teams conference happening this week from April 3rd through 7th. Of course, you can find more information out over on, Jared?
LearnTeamsConference.com.
LearnTeamsConference.com, but that's not the only place that teachers can go to learn more information about it. There are a number of great resources over on education.microsoft.com, where you can not only learn about Teams, take online courses on all of the apps, but my favorite part of the education.microsoft.com website is learning about how to become a Microsoft Innovative Educator. I want to kind of wrap up our show today by asking Kurt and Tom a little bit about their experiences with the MIE program. Kurt, let me ask you first, what has the MIE program meant to you?
Wow, that's actually coming up in a blog post in 1 month, I think, at the Educator network from Microsoft. Yeah, for me, it's a big family. It's a big worldwide family, and I can't imagine not being connected to these great and splendid educators out there. And it's helping me to get stuff done, to get information, to think about ideas loud, as I call it, so that I can get feedback on. And that's what I really like about this community, to share ideas, to get ideas, and to get feedback.
And Tom, I got to ask you the same question here. And what does the MIE program mean to you, your students, your staff, etc.?
It's about getting better. That's one reason. The community has been great with these tools. I mean, I'm just envisioning what we could do with Teams and all the MIE experts out there as well. But it allows you to shorten that cycle time between conception of an idea and implementation. And I followed Kurt for a number probably years now. But it allows you to take advantage of the expertise out there, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel and make those mistakes. And the people in this community are very giving. They're very willing to share their knowledge because, as Jared said, it's about the students. How can we provide the best education possible out there? And these tools that we have available to us today are just simply amazing. So that's what I get out of it.
It's pretty awesome, Jared. I'll let you in on a little secret. We've been working with Microsoft for the last 5 years. As many of you guys know, I'm the host of the Microsoft Innovative Educator Spotlight Series podcast, and I have a chance to work with MIEs from across the globe, bring them onto the show. Every single time I have an MIE on, I ask this question: what does the MIE program mean to you? And without a doubt, I think we're over like 40 for 40 here. The word family comes up, right? It's the interaction, it's the working with people. It's not I like the MIE program because Word is awesome, or I love playing with spreadsheets. It is the interaction with people. And I bring this up because in a few weeks, we're going to be having applications out for the MIE program. And if you're thinking about it, absolutely sign up. You can go over to education.microsoft.com, grab an application. It's free to apply. The requirements to do it are not challenging at all, and you become part of guys, help me here, I think there's 2,500 or something like that and counting. I mean, the family members out there are amazing, and just the fact that we're sitting here doing this live show, and on TeacherCast TV I'm from India, I'm from Italy, I'm sitting here going, wow, this is what the MIE program brings together for this. Jared, one more time, talk to us a little bit about how people can connect with this. Many people are going to be listening to this show or watching this program after the conference is over. How do we get in touch with you, or how do we get in touch with all the great content that's being generated this week?
Yeah, absolutely. So the conference all lives at learnteamsconference.com. And so right now, everything is being shared freely and open, and actually the last video will come out on the 7th, April 7th, and then it'll be closed on April 9th. It is still available after that, although it's through purchase. But you can even go to Learn Teams Conference, enter your email address, and I'll send you a few of the session videos for free. And you can check it out, see if you like it, learn something. And if it's something you want to go for, you can upgrade to, we call it an all-access pass for paid access after that.
And if you contact Jared and you mention that you learned about it on this show, maybe Jared can give you a few more videos for free. We'll see what happens on that. But definitely mention that you saw it here on TeacherCast Educational Network. Guys, let's go around the horn. Tom, one more time, where can we get a hold of you on Twitter, your website, plug all your great channels?
Okay, the website, eiu.edu/ITC. That's Instructional Technology Center at Eastern Illinois University. My Twitter handle is at Tom Grissom, Tom, Grissom.
And Kurt, where can we find out more about the great things happening in your neck of the woods?
So, of course, I'm on Twitter with Kurt Suezer, and everywhere else in the world. I think you can find my name everywhere at Kurt Suezer. My blog is at kurtsuezer.at, and I'm trying to relaunch it in the summer to get even more useful information out there for the German-speaking teachers out there.
And, of course, Jared, thank you so much for taking the time to put this together. We've, of course, loved working with you for the OneNote conferences and for the Teams conference here. If you haven't checked this out, you definitely have to. There's a lot of great stuff here. If you're on Twitter, you can follow the hashtag LTC18. I tried to get him to say that's Love TeacherCast in 2018, but he tells me it's worth something different. Jared, any last words here before we sign off tonight?
One last thing is don't stop the connection at the Learn Teams conference. Follow the speakers, follow everyone that's interacting with it, follow you, TeacherCast, and make sure to keep the conversation going.
And, of course, we want to say thank you out there to everybody who's watching the show tonight live and also on recording here. We will make sure that everybody gets a chance to have a copy of this through audio, through video. We, of course, have TeacherCast live programming every single Wednesday night. We have the Tech Educator podcast at 8:30 Eastern. And if you're into Microsoft education, you can always go over to teachercast.net/MicrosoftEDU. Hundreds of podcasts, literally hundreds of podcasts featuring Microsoft MIEs, Microsoft product developers, you name it. Lots of great stuff over at teachercast.net/MicrosoftEDU. On behalf of everybody here on the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.